Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. Going to look at a few stories in this episode. We're going to have a little bit of a look at the Torfino interview from Kean Bext. I'm not going to go too far into it, but there are two important things that I think need to be discussed from the particular interview, or for how much of it that I saw, at least. Of course, I'm going to do a little bit of an explanation of what the bank said and how I don't agree with most of what he claims, and how it's probably a strong indication that he's actually just saying whatever the government is asking him to say because they don't want you to know the truth. Despite all the assurances of the federal government, it turns out that the Canadian Armed Forces doesn't have any bullets, and we're borrowing against our reserve just to send enough off into Ukraine. So it's only a minute before we start spending money on somebody else's bullets to send them to Ukraine. Especially in Ukraine, if they're using UN bullets, we can get those sourced in a lot of spots. As the federal government's budget's spending and waste of Canadian tax dollars gets closer and closer, we see them making cuts all over the place, and that's no different when it comes to the residential school searches. They have had their funding basically slashed to near a pittance of the amount that they were actually getting, and what they are being given is coming with a lot more strings. Yara Sarks, the minister responsible for the report claiming the Liberal government is going to decriminalize all hard drugs across Canada, is claiming that the report was actually a fake planted by the Conservative Party. We know better, but she doesn't seem to care what the truth. Truth doesn't seem to be bothering her story. And lastly, what the Liberals are getting so completely out of touch. The website that I mentioned on an earlier report is playing such a monumental role on their Twitter feed that they have said nothing but it's 15, 20 posts in a row where they're just talking about this one particular weak, childish website that they've created in an effort to make themselves think that Canadians actually support them. And we'll get into that. Before we get into any of it, though, I would encourage you all to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this channel with all of your socials. I have memberships and I have an open GoFundMe. However, any support that you want to offer me is much appreciated. Okay, so I'm going to open with the story from Torfino, where the counter-signal is claiming they had an exclusive interview after taking an airplane to this beach and knowing exactly which beach along the British Columbia coastline he would be at. They took a plane, they got in the water, they walked ashore, and then they ambushed him while he was on the beach trying to have fun with his son. I don't know, I didn't watch the whole interview because it's behind a paywall. Despite it being hot, groundbreaking news, his first thought was to go home or go back to his office and edit it before he released it. So there's a lot of argument that is going around the internet right now saying that it was all staged. And the more I look at it, you kind of have to think that there wasn't really there was a lot of preparation if it was out of the blue nowhere. Either way, you can go to the Countersignal website and pay them. It's behind a paywall, so you can pay them whatever it is they're demanding. I think they put a special on just for this particular video. You can watch it for $5 or something. I'm not going to be doing that because I don't have any interest in what Justin Trudeau has to say. I believe that he speaks strong enough with all of the actions. However, I will show you a couple of things from the interview that make me go, So I'll just let you watch a couple of seconds of it. So you see right here where he's about to put his hands on him. Do you remember when Chrystia Freeland's bodyguard, RCMP officer, ran out in front of the Rebel News reporter and bashed into him and then had him arrested because he claimed that he had committed a crime? However, we can see right there that that's illegal, what he's doing right now. There's no excuse to put your hands on anybody. I mean, everybody's been saying that since the 80s. There is no justification. He's not attacking him. He's not putting his hands on him. He's under no threat. He's the Prime Minister of Canada, and he's surrounded by bodyguards. And he's on a beach with 7 people, 5 of which work for him. Right here, I would like to point out something. You see this building? This building is a house. Now, this is miles and miles and miles of beach under which Justin Trudeau just said to NATO that the sea levels are rising. So that's a bit bizarre. If any of you know anything about the water, you'll see that the tide has come out and they're walking on the water for the tide will eventually come up to where you see that house, and it'll basically be waterfront property. Because I want you to just see the fact that there's nobody here, that there's no high density going on. This is exclusivity to the maximum. And this is what you get when you elect elitists. You get $9 million condominiums that are private, and you get private beaches that go on 4 miles. There's nobody pooping in this sucker. Okay, so now you've heard the Bank of Canada talk about how it really lowered the interest rate by another quarter point. I mean, they put it up in leaps and bounds, and they're bringing it down by tiny little increments. And I'll let you hear what his 3 reasons are, and appreciate as you're listening to them that they don't make any sense.
Today, we lowered our policy rate by a further 25 basis points to 4.5%. This decision reflects 3 considerations. First, monetary policy is working to ease broad price pressures. Second, with the economy in excess supply and slack in the labor market, the economy has more room to grow without creating inflationary pressures. And third, as inflation gets closer to the 2% target, the risk that inflation comes in higher than expected has to be increasingly balanced against the risk that the economy and inflation could be weaker than expected.
So one of his reasons is that because the economy came down 1 point in April, we have to counter that against the fact that it might go up 1 point in June. And in fact, did go up 1 point. What I take issue with is the liberal slogan of monetary policies are working to address broad price. Do you find stuff is cheaper? Because that's what he's saying. He's saying that the way that they're behaving has brought grocery prices down, has brought housing prices down, has brought blah, blah, blah. Nothing is less expensive. If that were the case, he would simply say to you that he doesn't have to worry about the interest rates because it's on the way down. Now you see the problem. And then the next one really bothers me. He's like, well, we have a lot of stuff for our market, but we got nobody to do the job, right? It's because in September, when liberals come back and it comes out that they allowed in 400,000 people so far this year, they're going to want to say, well, those people are there to do the jobs that nobody else wants to do, which of course is just another bunch of malarkey. Nobody wants to work at Tim Hortons because it doesn't cover their rent. McDonald's, all of these minimum wage jobs that you're referring to, they might look like a number one on the column, like, in the job column, but they are not in any way, shape, or form a job that people can live a life on. So you say to them, well, you can work at Tim Hortons and struggle, or you can do nothing and struggle. Which one would you pick? They're not trying to avoid working. They simply know that it's a dead end. There's no housing that they can live in. So you want somebody to live from couch surfing to couch surfing and have this irregular schedule where they work afternoons one day, then days the next, and then midnights the day after that, because that's the schedule, the way their manager scheduled it, because the manager got all pissy because they were 10 minutes late because they had to walk from their tent. There's no labor shortage in this country. There is a housing shortage. There is an affordability shortage. And it's important to remember that it's a housing shortage that's really driving this guy's talk. The market is falling out. Nobody's trying to buy anything right now. No one is trying, which is smart. If you want housing prices to come down, you have to stop trying to buy things. But that's driving the bank insane. Because the only real way the bank makes money is they hold your mortgage. They hold the mortgage on businesses. They hold the mortgage on land. They hold the mortgage on houses. They hold the mortgage. That's where they make their money. They get the VIG. We would call it a VIG if it was on TV. Now it's down to 4.5% on every dollar that you own on that building goes directly into their pocket. And if the market falls out, they are going to be standing there holding an enormous amount of money while everybody just says, well, I'll claim bankruptcy because I cannot get the $1 million that the bank loaned me back on this property. So I'll sell for $750. The bank can have that. But in the meantime, I'm out the $350 that everybody wants. I don't have it. I'll just claim bankruptcy and the bank can hoop it or whatever it is banks do. And that will lead to a massive and horrible little process that all economists all over the world fear: recession. A recession is the one thing that they should have planned against many years ago, but they didn't. They got, I don't know what they got. No logic in the way. So now they're overloading. Despite what they say about the immigration, there are 60,000 people over how many they brought in last year. So last year they brought in 200. Now they're at 260. By September, it's going to be 400. And those people have nowhere to live and no jobs. And that's what you heard this guy say. He's saying whatever he needs to say to control the market. Because if the housing prices fall, the stock market is next. And then all of a sudden, you've got some nasty, nasty stuff. The Ottawa Citizen has posted on X. The defense industry rep says Canada on a hamster wheel of red tape as ammo contracts fail to materialize. Now, I haven't read the article. And there were promises in April that they were going to turn the military around, and they've hired a new individual for military. They were going to fix procurement. We have everything you need to make all of the ammunition in the world, in this country, right? We have things that other people do not have, like nickel and an abundance of copper. So the fact that we are not the number one ammunition manufacturer on earth is a bit shocking and probably deserves its own video. However, right now we have men in the field, and we've sent all of our bullets to Ukraine so they could fire it at whoever they're shooting at the particular moment. And we're not making any new ones, and we don't have the infrastructure to make any new ones, and we don't have the money to buy any new ones. And every time somebody tries to procure some, there's a new level of government that's in the way. So one guy says, here, let me send in these requisition orders. And then the next guy says, oh, no, wait, you didn't do it right. Then the next guy says, yeah, it's on the bottom of my pile. I'll get to it in a month. By the time everybody pats each other on the back and cashes their taxpayer-funded check, nothing is done. And that's the system that the federal government has created. I mean, they've increased the bureaucracy in this country by 40%. 40%. There isn't a single solitary socialist government on earth that isn't top-heavy with government. And that's how they secure it. They want to make everybody think that if you don't vote for me, all of the people that you know that work for me are going to lose their job. However, what you end up creating is this system where everyone who works for the government gets all the benefits and everybody else is living on ramen noodles. So that's something to consider when you're talking about the good government job. And I don't mean the union job. I mean the person who's got the pen and the paper sitting in the desk in the 15-story government building in the outskirts of Ottawa. All of that aside, what I see is a country that has no military preparedness. Like if the Russians did come over the top of the earth right now, how would we stop them? What are we going to throw at them? What, maple syrup? I mean, we got nothing. So that's really what we need to be considering on. That's exactly the thing that the Conservatives have been saying since the beginning, right? No more money to foreign dictators until we have our own stuff in order. And no matter what you tell yourself, if there's no munitions, it doesn't matter how fancy, how many drills you make, how many people you buy hire from the diversity crowds. If they don't have what it takes to defend, they don't defend. They simply, do like the rest of us and get swept aside. So Canada Proud put up a post on X after an internal memo sent to the Trudeau Liberals Addiction Minister Yara Sachs suggested national decriminalization of hard drugs was leaked. She's claiming, Sachs, on her X, that the Conservatives made it up. And of course, the document wasn't leaked by the Conservatives, and it wasn't even leaked to the conservative media. It was released by the far left media because it was released by somebody who just doesn't see that there's any wisdom in decriminalizing hard drugs. These things destroy lives. They destroy many lives. They ripple. And the only people who earn are the pharmaceutical companies. So there's only one group of people that benefit from this idea. And we again come back to it no longer, I mean, how many times do we have to see the Liberal Party go against what they promised before we'll start to realize that they don't seem to be holding any of their promises and they don't seem to be trying to stop the problems? You can let me know down in the comments, but that's how it appears to me. You know what I mean? All I see is saying one thing and doing another, which is completely opposite of getting problems solved. Okay, so the First Nations are upset because the federal government has cut the funding to the residential school x-rays of the ground to look for graveyards, unmarked graveyards. And this is being reported by CBC. Funding cuts to search for unmarked graves at residential school sites raises concerns. And you can see there that it's gone from $3 million a year to $500,000 a year. And that the $500,000 a year, you're no longer allowed to search anywhere that isn't already a registered residential school. So if a child from a residential school was sent to a hospital, you can't search there. If a child from a residential school was sent to a property that's not a registered residential school, according to the log that they have, in Ottawa, you're not allowed to search there. And going from $3 million down to $500,000, and when you consider the size of a bureaucracy like this, is a huge thing. There will be entire buildings that will no longer be able to get paid. So now we see that the bureaucracy is coming back to bite the federal government, that they need to cut back $2.5 million because they simply do not have any money. There's no money, and they know that their capital gains tax is about to blow up in people's faces. They got 90 days at max because the people that they're going after file their taxes more often, not than once a year. They file them on quarterly, right? So there's going to be a lot of blowback from this. They're just trying to cut corners wherever they can. This is not the only example. I just think that it's funny that they are on the one hand telling you that they care about the First Nations concerns, and then on the other hand, they're cutting all of the money out. So we come back to it. Which is true? They can't both be true. And how is it that you're saying one thing and doing another? Okay, as always, I saved the best for last. So on X, the Liberal government is desperate for you to go and see this website that they created. That's how clever they think that they are. That's how proud of their actions that they are. They really just want everybody to go there. In their mind, it's going to get a big, gigantic traffic of 40, 50 million people. Everybody from Great Britain's going to go there. They're going to be going there from all over the world. And they are, I don't think, getting the interactions that they hope they are, because their X is nothing but this website. I mean, it's sad. So here they have their pinned one where Justin Trudeau is telling you that everything is wonderful, but it's been there since January. So I don't know about that. Then we see Andrew Scheer say something, and now we can see here in the corner, pierresrecord.ca, right? We agree, pierresrecord.ca. 20 years of Pierre is enough. That picture is literally taken from that website, pierresrecord.ca. Pierresrecord.ca. Oh, something to do with the economy. Pierresrecord.ca. 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 And these are all, look, the 23rd. They're just every single solitary minister trying to put it out there. Look, Pierre's record. You can't make this up. This is right out of a comedy. How in your mind are you telling yourself that this is dignified? How in your mind are you telling yourself that this is leadership? How in your mind are you telling yourself that this is what Canadians are concerned about? Because they can't think outside of their own little self-imposed box. They live in hatred. They think it's all about the battle over the personality. They think it's a cult of personality, right? You either like Justin Trudeau and then you vote for all of his actions, or you like Pierre Poilievre and you vote for all of his actions. They don't understand that it's the Liberal Party actions that they're voting against that people are upset about. And when you clamor everybody together, when you know that the Liberal Party and the NDP are hooked at the hip or joined together, there's nobody left to select. But they can't wrap their mind around that, because that's not something that they would be able to fathom. They don't care about the results. They don't care how you're living. They just want you to hate. They just want you to see a division between them and people who are trying to save the country. And this is how far they will go. This is the meltdown that they're having over there. They're putting up posts every hour about the same website and getting no interactions. This one got 163 likes, despite the fact that 70,000 people looked at it. This one's got 400 likes, despite the fact that 28,000 people looked at it, but it got 500 comments. So something tells me people are not impressed. This one got 1,400 comments, even though it got 400 likes. And that's from Stephen Guilbeault. So you can appreciate just what those comments are probably saying. Nobody likes Stephen Guilbeault. Nobody. Most of the Liberals don't even like him. So it's just sad to think that this is the leadership of our country, that these guys have the decision power, the processing power, the money to create jobs, to create a good economy, to create homes. They don't care about any of it. All they care is that you stop thinking that the Conservatives can counter all of the damage that the Liberals have done, which most of us believe, and know that nothing that they're going to put up there is going to change that. But they can't handle it. They just don't get it, right? They don't understand that it's not about anything other than the standard that you are living. But they don't care because they think you're there to serve them, not them there to serve you. They have a very elitist, they have a very upper crust, I am royalty, I am a lord of the land, and you are here to do what I tell you, no matter what, no questions asked. That's the Liberal Party in a nutshell, in my opinion. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank y'all for listening. I'll talk to you next time.